Everyone, I'm Luke Does Stuff, and I'll start the video with something I usually do at the end. My social media links are in the description below if you want to check those out. I have a Patreon if you want to help support the channel, and also hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, notification bell, share this out to your family and friends, and let's get into the review. Incredible Hulk Silent Screams is good. It's solid good. It's fun. It's a dive into the mental psyche of Bruce Banner. And it's good. It's really good, actually. So, before this whole storyline actually started, Bruce Banner had now become the Grey Hulk, which is a smarter version of the Hulk that isn't as strong, but he's smarter. He's not like Bruce Banner level of intelligence, but he's a functioning, he's able to string sentences together and have them make sense. But he's more like a Las Vegas thug guy. He's not really intelligent to the point of being like Bruce Banner levels of intelligent, but he functions as he could function in a society. He's like Ben Grimm. He's like the Thing, basically. Like, you're talking to me, you walking, I'm walking here, I'm talking here, So we start off, and Hulk's jumping around the city, and comes across this apartment complex that has weird lightning coming out of it. Goes to see what it is, and Doctor Strange is in his astral form inside. Meanwhile, Hulk's being followed by Namor. Doctor Strange gets pulled into this closet where it's this other reality where everything's black and white, and Hulk's basically starting to feel heavier. So he tries to jump out. He gets grabbed. Namor grabs him on the other side, pulls him back in. Hulk quickly closes the door behind him. Namor takes off his jacket and his hat, and he says, "I'm Namor. I'm here to help. We're putting the band back together." So it seems. And as the sun starts to rise, the Hulk turns back into Bruce Banner because, it's that transformation gimmick now. It's not you get angry, it's night and day. Meanwhile, Doc Samson is checking up on this kid who's in hospital, and they've just had a run-in with Bruce Banner, the Hulk, and the kid's playing with this car, and Doc Samson's like, "Who gave you the car? Who gave you the toy car?" And he's like, and the kid's like, "The other government guy gave me it." And that confuses Doc Samson. So Namor and Hulk and Bruce Banner go to the Sanctum Sanctorum. They talk to Wong. They meet Doctor Strange's new apprentice guy who's a Minotaur. Doctor Strange greets them. Meanwhile, Doc Samson's just walking along. He sees a large scale version of the toy car that the kid was playing with, and he's like, "Right, I'm gonna stop this car, whatever it is. It's nothing good." So he stands right in front of it, and he's like, "Right, if it goes that way, I'm gonna catch it. If it goes that way, I'm gonna catch it. And if it's trying to knock me over, it's gonna think twice before it cross swords with Doc." But he gets run over. He's not dead though. He just gets run over. Meanwhile, Meanwhile, Bruce is sleeping in the Sanctum Sanctorum. He wakes up and he starts feeling a pain in his back, and we see that there's like a scar starting to form on his back. Doctor Strange, Namor, and Bruce Banner talk, and they talk about this strange universe full of strange matter. That's what they think that this monster is. So Bruce Banner goes into his own psyche to talk to the Hulk, and they both are like bickering to each other. They come across this like giant cast gold door, and they're like, "What does that do?" I don't know. Aren't you curious? I don't know. Open it. I haven't the strength. Well, neither. It doesn't take strength, just guts. Do it. But before either of them can, a bit of this strange matter leaps out of Bruce Banner's pocket, covering the Hulk, and the Hulk becomes infected. So Namor and Doctor Strange have to fight this infected, like, version of the Hulk. Meanwhile, this car's still chasing everyone, but the fight, like, ravages on and it tears down the city, until Bruce Banner is able to get him to a point to lead him to this door so he can open it. And inside is something that scares this strange matter monster off of the Hulk. And the Grey Hulk is then, what are you, crazy? Shut the door, shut it now, you're gonna let him escape. And if you're smart, if you know the Hulk, then you're gonna know what's behind that door. If not, oh boy, you're in for one. But yeah, Bruce Banner is back in, Bruce Banner form. The scar on his back is getting more and more, like, worse. But Bruce Banner's like, don't look at it. It's my problem, not yours. You were trying to find Betty. And he's like, yeah, she's a 321 Maple Street, but she had a miscarriage. Bruce Banner, like, falls down in, like, distress. He goes to the address, and it's a convent. He's like, why is Betty at a convent? And then he sees her in, like, full nun uniform, talking to kids, reading them a story. Meanwhile, this car is still chasing Bruce Banner. Bruce knocks on the convent door. He's like, hey, I'm... What, another reporter? You've come to distress Betty Ross again? Leave. He ends up trying to climb over the gate, and the gate rips his shirt, which exposes the, like, scar that's been forming on his back, and he hides in the confessional room. Betty Ross goes into the room next to confess. She goes through this entire, like, spiel about how her life has been full of monsters. Now she's now finally rid of those monsters, and finally rid of Bruce Banner. This sends Bruce into a massive depression, where he's just contemplating whether he should go back and, like, find Betty again, should try and rekindle their relationship. Betty then goes to, like, the lead mother at this church and says, like, I'm leaving, I'm gonna go, because of Bruce Banner, I need to, like, catch up with him. Bruce then finds Betty, like, leaving, getting into a cab to a train station. He pulls over this guy. He's like, can you take me to where, can you follow that cab? He's like, sure. He's like, no. So Bruce just throws him out of the cab and starts driving, but this other car that's been chasing Bruce Banner finally catches up to him and knocks him off the road into a post. When Bruce tries to make a run for it, it covers him, like, in, like, a massive plastic bag, which he tries to rip out of. and he can't. But when he's finally able to like rip out of it, the car turns around trying to run him over, and he's like no, and and the scar on his back starts to open, and it's the Green Hulk literally shedding the skin of Bruce Banner, and the Hulk completely destroys this car, because it was equipped to take out the Grey Hulk, but the Green Hulk is infinitely more like infinitely stronger. So now that the Green Hulk has been unleashed, it's going to be even more difficult to keep it at bay. So they're kind of having this. So the Green Hulk and the Grey Hulk are having this kind of tug of war with this like gold door. Meanwhile, the police are like crowding around this like shedded skin, and they identify it as Bruce Banner, and they say, well, this is just a variation on the Banner Hulk change. And they come to the conclusion, right, the Green Hulk is back. That means he's back to stay. So Bruce and Betty go back to the church, and they're like, can we lay low here for a while? People are going to be after us. They won't think to find us in a church. And if they do find us in a church, no one's going to want to knock down a church. Then they hear, like, military sirens, and someone shouts in there, Bruce Banner, come out with your hands behind your head. Doc Samson walks up, and he talks to like the lead mother that's there, and she's basically like, right, I have a few questions. First off, why is your hair green? And then one of the cops is like, the sun's going down, the Hulk's coming out, and then he's like, right, but with the Green Hulk back, the two Hulks can't coexist, can they? Doc Samson's like, yeah, you're right. Wait a minute. Banner's a multiple personality. Why can't they coexist? He looks behind him, and the Grey Hulk's like holding a tank up and about to throw it at him. And so he does throw it at him. Someone throws a grenade right into the Hulk's mouth. He spits it out, but it like explodes right in front of him. Pretends to be like blinded, only for Doc Samson to run over and be like, someone get a medic now. Hulk opens his Hulk's hands like removed from his face, and he starts pounding on Doc Samson. And then the Hulk jumps away with Betty, leaving the church like completely destroyed. And so they both are on this rooftop, and they're both talking to each other, the Hulk and Betty, and Betty's basically like, you're scared to be around me because you're scared of me, because I'm the one person that prefers Banner over you. But we can learn to get together. We can learn to like be civil, maybe even grow to like each other. And the Hulk's like, what do you expect me to be in, like a AA meeting? Like, hey, I'm Hulk. Hey, I'm Hulk. I'm a gamma radium monster, and I admit it freely. And then Betty starts like laughing, like combustiously, and the Hulk like just follows suit. When I see Rick Jones, he's running away from some people, and he runs into the Thing, who smacks him, knocking him out, and then turns from the Thing to a Skrull, then to a little girl. buying one of Rick Jones's books because he's just like released an autobiography, and leaves to get mugged. The Hulk then jumps down from the building, then like lifts these two gangsters, shakes them, and he's like, right, this is your first night, right? Pretty busy first night. Then wraps them up in a light post. We get another slow moment with Hulk and Betty talking to each other. Rick Jones then wakes up. He's like tied up in this dungeon-looking place, and a younger version of himself walks up to him and is like, "You destroyed Bruce Banner's life. Everything bad that's happened in his life is because of you." Then a version of him that's dressed up as Bucky starts beating him up and kicking him, saying, "You destroyed Cap's life. Everything wrong that's happened with Cap is because of you." And then this little girl like walks over and he's like, "Don't mention Captain Marvel's name," because they mentioned that he was a sidekick to Captain Marvel. So Bruce and Betty decide to go looking for Rick Jones because they're like, right, Rick Jones is part of our like famous trio. We might as well go find him. So they go into this this like ghost town where it's supposed to be doing a signing. They talk to one of the bookstore owner, and he's like, he didn't show up. He stupid kid. And Bruce gets really like angry with him, leaves the store, and he's like, right, there's something wrong going on here. So every superhero that Rick Jones has been like tied to starts coming in and just beating up Rick Jones. And Bruce Banner goes to like the police department. He's like, has Rick Jones gone missing? He didn't show up to his signing. And then he's like, and the police officer is like, I haven't heard of any Nick Jones. So Bruce gets angry again when he gets pulled out of the police room by Betty. He comes across this little girl who leads him to this like abandoned building. It's like Rick's in there. When Banner turns his head, it turns into the little girl turns into the Super Skrull. Rick's managed to escape from his like confinement, and he's found out that he's on a Skrull ship. So he looks around and he's like, "Fuck it, I've got to get out of here." Meanwhile, Betty is trying to warn the Super Skrull of what she's doing, and the Hulk's like, I know it's not night, but you need to let your pride go for a second. Your girl's about to get killed. Let me out. Which one will it be? The grey or the green?" And eventually, Bruce is like, "All right, fine." So the Hulk and the Super Skrull have a massive fight. Meanwhile, Rick Jones is trying to escape the Skrull ship. Hulk eventually wins, and Rick Jones eventually escapes. And they hitch a ride on the back of a Ford pickup. On their way home, on their way back to Rick Jones's house, or Rick Jones's apartment, Bruce Banner starts to transform, but not fully, and the voices in his head are getting more vocal. The Hulk, the Grey Hulk and the Green Hulk are starting to actually fight, having a physical fight in Bruce Banner's mind, and as they fight, like, Bruce Banner's body is being torn up in the process, and he starts rampaging across this town. Meanwhile, Rick Jones at his apartment with his new girlfriend, who happens to be the girlfriend of the Grey Hulk when the Grey Hulk was in Las Vegas as Joe Fixit. It's all very confusing. But they're trying to stop Bruce from destroying the city. But eventually Betty is able to talk into Bruce, right, you may be weak in your physical body, but this is your mental body. You aren't strong. You aren't weak. You can be strong. So be strong. And Banner's basically like, that's enough. Or in his mind, he's basically like, that's enough. You two morons haven't realised yet. But in my mind, Banner is strongest there is. So when Bruce wakes up, he finds Doc Samson there, and he's like, right, I have a lot to discuss. Inside the brain of Hulk, basically it's like the joke that was on earlier in the book. Everyone's on like tiny deck chairs, and the Green Hulk, Grey Hulk, and Banner are basically like talking to Doc Samson, and it's like a therapy session. So they're talking out their feelings and their problems, and Doc Samson's basically like, why do you want to kill each other? So they look the other way, and they see this like big demon monster. They both instinctively jump in to fight it. The Green Hulk gets snapped in half, and the Grey Hulk literally gets ripped in two. And we find out that it's all going on inside of Banner's brain, because he's like under the hypnotism of the Ringmaster, but it's all like therapy for Doc Samson. Doc Samson's trying to like merge all three personalities into one. So we basically go through turning points in Bruce Banner's life, points where he should have showed emotion, but he didn't. We learn that Bruce Banner was afraid of showing emotion, and he threw himself into science, into anything else, because it was safe. It kept him away from becoming his father. So the final point, when they're at a graveyard, they're confronted by the monster again. This time it's in front of Bruce Banner's mum's grave. So he starts hugging the grave. He's basically just like, I'm sorry for everything. The monster was never me. It was always Dad. And that's when this like big monster just turns into a human, and then turns into his mum. It turns into Bruce Banner's mum, and she talks to both the Green and Grey Hulk, and she's like, you need to do this. So they both reach into Bruce Banner in sync, and in the real world, Banner's like convulsing, he's starting to change, and when he changes into the Professor. And that's the end of the book. Yeah. Incredible Hulk Silent Streams is a very good book, but it's not a solid A to B thing. Well, it is in the on-running theme of the actual inner workings of Bruce Banner as a like man, as a multiple personality disorder, not quite as a hero. The superhero's shenanigans very, very much aren't the center of the book. It's more about the mentality and the mental state of Bruce Banner. It's not really that solid hero versus villain thing. That being said, it's handled very well, and the pacing of it is very good. And having, like, and I feel like it is. It's just handled very well. There is a lot of stuff that happens in this, and a lot of stuff goes on, and there's a lot of action, but the action is to serve a purpose. It's not just action for action's sake. That being said, Incredible Hulk Silent Screams gets from me a 9 out of 10. Would give it a 10 out of 10, but the art does fall in places. Dylan does this. He draws faces very narrow, and me having a very chubby face, that kind of makes me feel a bit bad. But everywhere else, it's very good. Yeah, I like the book a lot. It's a very good book. Yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.